You're listening to Healing Voices Project, where we share stories and the latest information from people who fight addiction every day. I'm Mike Torville, your host and author of Voices from the Fallen. Thank you for listening, for following, and most of all, for sharing with people you care about. Make your voice count too. Hello, everybody, back again at Healing Voices Project. I'm here with Jolie Fader. Jolie is a new friend we've got talking to a little while ago, and Jolie is a young adult who's got lots going on, and we appreciate you coming on, Jolie. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Well, good. You know, and I'm going to tell a little bit about you first, and then, of course, no introduction is better than from the person themselves. But I'm going to give a quick overview, and we're going to get to know you, know what you do for work. We're going to know your background, what brought you here. So really, I appreciate you diving into this with us. So,
Sure.
so here's a quick background on Jolie for everybody listening. Jolie Fader is the Western Mass Young Adult Regional Peer Recovery Specialist with the Massachusetts Young People in Recovery, also called My Peer, which is spelled MYPIR. Nice little play on words. Did you think of that?
No, I wish I did. My supervisor did.
Oh, well, it was very good. My
Yeah.
Peer. And there at My Peer, she gets to use her experience as a young person in recovery to provide peer support to other young adults in the form of support groups, social events, trainings, recovery coaching, and all kinds of other things that you're going to talk
Oh,
about today.
yeah. hmm
So that's a quick overview, but so tell us one, where you work, what do you do, what a typical day is like.
Yeah, so I work at My Peer in the Western Mass region. We're a statewide nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
So our main hub is in Quincy, which is near Boston for people probably in this area, Western Mass, who may not be as familiar.
Yeah.
Um, so we have a space there inside a recovery center.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of us have different regions and we're mobile throughout all of those regions. So I'm in Western Mass, I'm driving, I work from home or go to different centers or places and do groups, sometimes recovery coaching, host trainings, or, sometimes we do the outings. We like to do a monthly outing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm really kind of everywhere. Yeah.
And you said the rest of us, meaning, so you have a team, you have lots of people who,
Yes, I
yeah.
do
And
have a
what
team.
does the team consist of generally? A lot of people just like yourself?
Yeah, so we're all young people in recovery from substance use. We all have lived experience. We're all in the process of getting certified or certified already to be recovery coaches. And yeah, that's because we're a peer support organization. We're not a clinical support. We're not therapists. We're peers. It's a peer-to-peer relationship. So we've been through a lot of the same things that people who are coming to us for help have been through.
Mm-hmm. And
Mhm.
so tell me, I was going to say, tell me about a typical day, but I have a feeling you don't have typical days. I think they're all
Yeah.
different.
They
Uh,
are.
yeah.
I was going to say that, yeah, but I'll do like a little admin, like do the newsletter, do some social media. But a lot of the time I'm going to this place, I'm going to that place. Um, but I do have weekly groups that I run, so I'll do some outreach certain days and then I'll do my groups other days.
Are the groups done in person or by remote?
They're both. So
Mhm.
almost each group we have at my peer, including the groups I run, are hybrid because we are a statewide organization. So we like people, for instance, someone might be in Boston and they want to join SMART, which is in Belchertown, so they can on Zoom. So all of them are available online and in person, except a couple that can only be done in person. Like we have a boxing group, which would be kind of hard to do over Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, um, and we have a couple that are online only that peers may have taken over and, now host them themselves or have kind of moved on.
And you say the groups consist of younger. young adults. Is there an
Mhm.
age limit, or how do you determine who? I'm 66 years old. It wouldn't be where I would go.
Well,
Mm.
I could have sworn you were 28. But technically our age range is 18 to 27. That's what our grant is for.
Okay.
So, people under 18 are generally encouraged to like come with a guardian or someone older, like it could be an older friend, a parent,
Mhm.
just someone over 18. um and over 27, like up until 30 we can still help and still be engaged with, but that's sort of when we're trying to help them find other resources for them and get them connected elsewhere so that they can
Yeah.
sort of move on. Mhm.
Yeah, that makes sense because you actually have resources to direct others who fall outside that group.
Yeah.
How do people, I should have asked this earlier, how do people find out about you, your website, and how do people, if they want to find out more, how do they reach you and find you
Yeah.
online?
Good question. So
Mhm.
our website is www, I don't know if I have to include that part, dot mypir.org. Super simple. And then our number is 617-657-1031. And I always like to tell people that's a cell phone, so you can text or call that number.
Mhm.
Um, and that's probably the best way. Also on our website, you can click become a member, and becoming a member basically means you're in our system and you'll get our monthly newsletter. And there's also like a calendar on there and lots of info about how you can get involved, where things are, really everything you need to know.
Um, how long have you been involved with My Peer?
Almost a year. My hire date was May 6th of 2024, which is so crazy to think about that. But yeah, almost a year.
The year went by quick. Is that
Yeah,
what you're
very
saying?
quick. Yes, very
What did you
quick.
do before?
So I have been in college for like 6 years now. So I've always been doing college, you know, and
Well, for some I know, and some people it's lifelong academics. I don't know if that's your
yes,
plan.
it might be, but I'm really trying to get this undergrad degree finished. So we'll
Okay,
see.
good,
But
good, yeah.
I've also worked at Starbucks since I was like 17. It was my first real job, and I worked there for 6 years.
Wow, okay.
Yeah,
Well, and at some point prior to that, you said you were in recovery, so
yeah.
your experiences obviously led you to where you
Hmm.
are now. Um, and so how long have you, been in recovery
Hmm.
yourself? Has it been
Yeah.
how long has it been for you?
It's been a little over 2 years.
Mhm.
I went to treatment in December of 2022. So
Just as
a little
COVID
over two
was
years.
starting to wind down, right?
Yeah, it was.
So was it during
Because
COVID that you were, more in the throes of your yeah,
yes, I was a freshman in college when the
mhm.
lockdown happened. I remember May 13th, 2020, we had just it was like a few weeks back from spring break, or sorry, winter break, and we all got an email like we're going home. I was in Pennsylvania at the time at college, and I went home. Then I never went back to that school actually in person. I did another year online, but after that I was just like too disengaged from school
You
to
just
keep
lost
to go
interest,
back.
right? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely I did. Yeah.
Um, I was gonna jump ahead and ask you, but I'll go
Mhm.
backwards instead.
Yeah.
You you're in recovery
Mhm.
because you went through addiction yourself.
Yeah. Yes, I did. Yes.
How did that start, and where did
Mhm.
it bring you?
Mm. Well, that is a question that has a long answer.
Mhm.
Um, I grew up in uh I feel like is not talked about a lot. My parents were divorced. That's talked about, but my younger sister was severely disabled. She couldn't walk. She couldn't talk. She was diaper fed her whole life. Seizures, all this kind of stuff. She actually never had a diagnosis. So she was sort of an enigma, which is kind of funny. But
Mm.
I grew up caretaking. I grew up caretaking, helping my mom. And when I wasn't helping, I was sort of on my own. Um, and I love my parents. It wasn't their fault, they just had a lot of stuff on their plate.
Yeah.
So
How many
like,
other siblings do you have? Just your sister, or was it?
so I have my sister passed away actually. So that was
Oh,
Peyton, and she
sorry.
passed. Yeah, thank you. But I actually have two stepbrothers on my mom's side and three siblings on my dad's side. A stepsister is technically half sister and stepbrother, but I just call them my
Okay.
siblings. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
yeah,
of course. Right, right,
yeah.
right.
Hmm.
So you had a house full of people.
Yeah, well, actually, most of the time I was at my mom's house, so it was just my sister, my mom, and I. So it was actually
Oh,
not super full.
I
Yeah,
gotcha. Okay, okay.
yeah,
So you were trying to help your mom care for your sister,
yeah.
and then as things progressed, where did
Mhm.
that lead you?
Yeah, so I started having, I would also say I'm in recovery from mental health issues.
Mhm.
So around like ages 12, 13, I started having really bad anxiety, and depression would come on a little bit too, but that got worse later. But I developed OCD. And that was, I think, tied to my sister, you know what I mean? Because I was always worrying, what if, like, what if this happens? Or like, what if I gave her the wrong dose of medicine? What if I did the wrong thing? What if she gets hurt? Like all this stuff, right? So it became very intense, honestly. You know what I mean? I remember waking up like every day and I would feel like nauseous, like every day, because I just like had so much stress and anxiety.
That's a lot of burden for a young child. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, at
Um,
that age. Yeah,
I know. That's what people have told me.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I developed OCD, and sort of from there is when I started seeking escape in many various forms. Um the first escape ever was probably when I was little and I loved to watch TV. Like I always say the TV raised me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I was watching Grey's Anatomy at like 6, like medical shows, like, I had
Okay,
no supervision, you know what I mean?
right.
Um, but I watch lots of movies, shows, and I still love movies to this day, actually. Um, and then food, food was a comfort. Again, I
Hmm.
didn't really have supervision, so I could just eat whatever I wanted, you know what I mean? But eventually it grew to like self-harm. Like I used to cut myself. I started when I was like 12, I think. And then eventually a few years later, substances.
Substance, was it alcohol that started?
No, it was never alcohol actually. It was just
Okay.
various drugs. A lot of different drugs.
In the form of pills?
It started mostly with weed.
Hmm.
And then sort of progressed. Like once I got into college, I was dabbling on like stimulants. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I've heard so many people say, weed is just like the gateway drug, and they start with that, and it's mild, it's nothing, and people say, oh, it is, it's the gateway. Oh no, it's harmless. But you know what I've learned is it is for some, and not for others. I mean, there's not a clear black and white answer here.
Yeah.
For you, it was.
Yeah, I think it wasn't necessarily about the like act like what weed is. It was more just like taking a substance, right?
Right. And as
And
mild as
weed,
that might have been, it was
yeah,
your first.
right.
Yeah,
And it was the easiest one to get. You know what I
mhm,
mean? So,
of course, yeah,
um, so I was like, okay, you know what I mean? And then I got curious and I was like, oh, I would like to try other substances. I had access to them, and so I took them. You know what I mean?
mhm.
So
So that led to different pills and different, types
yeah.
because you said you had the mental anxiety too. Did that relieve your anxiety? Or did it add to it?
That's a good question because sometimes I'm like, I am a really anxious person. Like, why did I gravitate towards those certain substances? Um,
Mhm.
I think that's something a lot of people with like substance use disorders think about, or I don't know, maybe it's just me, but like sort of like, why did I choose this drug over this drugs, right?
Yeah.
For me, I actually also recently, like last year, got diagnosed with ADHD, and what I realized is like a lot of my anxiety also stems from feeling super disorganized because I lack certain executive functioning skills. Like if you, oh my gosh, like if you were to look around my house right now, like there's like 12 calendars, like so many reminders on my phone, notebook lists, all this stuff. Because I cannot function without that. You know what I mean? And um, I was very much a machine in high school because I was super organized. I went to school as my other escape.
Hmm.
Um, but sort of getting thrown out of whack during college really put me in a sort of funk. So the substances I used did help with that anxiety because they helped me focus and sort of like feel in control and not so chaotic.
Hmm.
So I guess it did relieve anxiety in a way.
In a
In a
way,
way.
yeah, because
Yeah.
also your very structured world, your very structured mind needed everything, and then when that got disrupted, it spun out of control.
Mm,
It sounds
it
like,
was bad. Yeah.
yeah.
What'd you say?
And it spins out of control, and then you lose your
Yeah.
ability to focus on that because it sort of scrambles your brain a little bit.
Yeah. It's still something I'm like trying to get back in the swing of, and I beat
Yeah.
myself up sometimes because I'm like, I used to take 5 classes. I used to work full part time and be fine. And now I go to school part time and I work part time. And I'm like, why can't I do more? But it's like, I, people change, people's brain changes. And it's like, I may not be able, it's okay where I'm at. You know what I mean?
Well, you started taking these pills that relieved your anxiety to some degree.
Yeah.
Okay, mission accomplished. But
Yeah.
something took a wrong turn. At what point did you
Yeah.
realize this is doing me more harm than good? What brought
Yeah.
that?
Well, I had to withdraw from class. So I was still in school. I had transferred to a school closer to where I was living.
Yeah,
But the substance use just got super in the way. Like I would stay up for nights on end and then I would try to drive to school the next day and then I'd be like falling asleep when I was driving and it was just like really bad, really dangerous. So I was like, and I wasn't doing any work. Like I couldn't get myself to do the work. So I withdrew from classes, and that was like the first big thing because I honestly love school. I love learning. So to me, that was signaled like, okay, like something is really wrong here. You know what I mean? Um, and then there's sort of one day where I took more than I had normally been taking, and I felt like really bad, like really crazy.
Why did
And
you take more? Why did you take more? Because the amount you were taking wasn't doing getting the job done, or what?
I guess so, but I think also it was like because the thing about stimulants, at least in my experience, is that the tolerance does grow, but it's not the same as like opiates or alcohol, for instance.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
you don't have that physical, like really bad withdrawal feeling. You do feel tired and stuff, but it wasn't that, but like the mental addiction was like, I want, like my head was saying, like, you should take, like, I want more, like I want to feel more. You know what I mean? And that's the
Hmm.
crazy like that, which is really crazy, right? Because I can't really imagine it's very different than certain substances. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
my mind was still telling me that mental stuff, but it wasn't based on how I felt physically.
Was there an event or something that went wrong that made you realize this is out of control and I need to stop? Anything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was that day that I like the night after I had taken a lot of substances and I had experienced sort of like paranoia before. Like I was living with my stepsister at the time and like I had my room to myself and I could look out the window and like look at her car and see if she was gone. And like,
Yeah.
the whole night I'd be like, oh, like, was she dead? Like, she's still there. And I started seeing like shadow stuff, you know what I mean? And that was sort of, and then that day happened where I took too much. And I
It
was like,
scared you?
it scared me so
Mm.
bad because I was actually, I had been promoted at work. I was a shift supervisor at Starbucks. Don't ask me how that happened when I was using drugs. But I was supposed to train someone that day too, because I was also a barista trainer. And I remember texting my boss, who's like an angel on earth, like from my old store. And I was like, I think I have to go to the hospital. Like, I can't come in. And that's when I like literally picked up the phone and called my mom. I was like, Mom, like, I need help. Like, I've been doing drugs. Because they didn't know. Neither of them knew.
Oh, so that must have been quite the shock.
It was, yeah, it was weird. It's funny because like I had been using substances for a long time at that point. Sorry, there's a siren inside. for like 5 years, 5 or 6 years by then. But they just they were so busy and so, focused on like my sister and other
Hmm.
siblings that um they didn't know. But also I hid it. I was very, very concerned with hiding it. Um and my parents are luckily really understanding, very chill, like pragmatic people. So my mom was like, okay, like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to go to rehab. And so she
You
called my
didn't?
dad,
Well, let
which
me
was
ask you this.
yeah,
What about rehab made you say, no, I don't want to go? Was it a perception you had, an
no,
idea?
no, I do want to go to rehab. I
Oh,
said,
you
yeah.
do? Okay, I
Sorry
misheard
if
you.
I
So
said something different.
no, no, no. But so you did. You wanted to go to rehab.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
like, I need to go. Like, I
All
need to
right.
go. Like, help me get
Well,
somewhere now.
and that's better when you recognize that fact rather than somebody
Yes.
telling you. So okay. So yeah, well,
Yes.
good. You recognize that. And had
Yeah.
you spoken with anybody about it, or did you just say on your own, no, I just know I need to go?
I mean, I had like, I had like a couple friends who had struggled with substance use. Like I
Mhm.
had a friend at the time who like had gone to rehab for alcohol and like had told me their experience. I also like earlier that year had a hospital stay, like inpatient for self-harming that I was still doing. That was also a big part of the addiction because I would feel like so depressed the day after binging
Mhm.
stimulants that it was like, my mood was just like woo, woo, woo.
That's exhausting, by the
And
way, isn't it?
it is so oh my, like I said, I was falling asleep at the wheel. It was like, and I
Yeah.
was delirious. I think I also smoked weed at work to help me get through. I didn't actually use stimulants at work though. So it was extra hard because I was so tired, but you know.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So you
Yeah,
went to rehab,
I did.
and how did that go?
Glad I went. I'm thankful that I went. But it was hard. I went to sober living after too, and I really feel like that year of my life was such like a like I don't know. I was really miserable that year. You know what I mean? I think partially because my brain was getting used to not being on drugs, but there was a lot of stuff that I had to deal with. A lot of one, the anxiety, right? Because
Well,
I
you had the
the
anxiety, you had harming yourself, and the
yes,
pulling back from using.
yes,
Did you relapse and go back to
I did
taking?
not actually.
You did not. Wow.
Mhm.
Well, good for you. That's
Yeah,
great. And that was just a mere 2 years ago.
I know.
Well, and look
It's pretty
now,
crazy.
so you left your other work and now you're at my peer. What led you
Yes.
to this particular job you have now? How did you must have
Um,
spoke with somebody, met somebody? How did this turn into that?
so it's sort of a funny story. Well, it's not actually a story. It's like a non-story. I just found it on Indeed, and I applied, and I came for an interview, and then they asked me back for a second interview, and then they hired me.
Well, okay, so without the experience in this field, and here you
Yeah.
are, a year into the job, right?
Yep. Hmm.
And how do you like it?
I love this job so much. I mean,
And
I'm a people
why?
person. I
Why
love
why do
talking to people.
you because you've been through it, you relate, you see the
Yes.
progress of others? Is it
Yes, absolutely. And I'm the type of person that it's really helpful for me to have some sort of, something outside of myself to find to be invested in. You know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like a lot of people are like that. But what I mean is I do better when I'm helping other people. You know what
you
I
see,
mean?
isn't that's a wonderful thing, right? Yeah.
It is.
And your the peers, the people you work with,
Mhm.
have all been through similar things that you've been through, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Mhm.
Um, and so are you finding that the people you meet with in the
Mhm.
groups, um, when people come through and are in recovery, um, those are typically the
Mhm.
people that end up doing the work and helping others through this
Yeah.
because they're just better equipped to do that in terms of
Hmm.
understanding and relating and so on. Are you finding that there's a lot of people who you feel who you see just like you
Hmm.
that you've helped to help turn their lives around and now are working in the field?
I don't think anyone I can think of is working in the field, but there have been peers who have stepped up and
Hmm.
taken over groups or like really become like like a, you know, like for instance, there's one group I run and there was a peer and they became, you know, one day I was like, hey, like I would really like people to get involved. And the next meeting they were like, I want to get involved. And now they run that group. Like they totally run it,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah.
sometimes I'll stop in and be like, hey, but they run it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see a lot of that in the people who
Hmm.
might have had a different career or in
Hmm.
school or
Yep.
doing any other occupation than this. And I
Hmm.
find it's more often that people say, you know, I was in recovery, and the last thing I ever pictured myself doing is working as a recovery coach. And yet I love my job, and
Hmm.
I cannot picture me doing anything else than this. And I think when we had our first conversation, you alluded to something like that. Oh my gosh, I love my job.
Yes.
Can you see yourself doing any other occupation aside from this right now?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, like all throughout high school, I was like, I'm gonna be a lawyer, like I'm gonna go to law school, all this stuff. And now I'm like, that might be cool, but I really find fulfillment and joy in this work. You know what I mean?
Mhm, mhm.
Um, it helps. It's just like really, it helps me socialize. It helps me meet people. I get to see new places. I get to learn so much. I um, I get to practice a lot of skills. And it's fun. You know, it's very fun. You know what I mean? It's not like a boring like I don't want to do work today. It's like no, like I literally am like okay, like it's work. Woohoo! Like I'm ready for this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like that is hard to find.
It is hard to find, and
Yeah.
it's nice to hear your enthusiasm about it because I
Yeah.
think what's your is there anything that really frustrates you or discourages you about your job at all?
Um, I guess
If you have a hard time thinking that, that's a good thing, by the way.
it, I know it's not about the job itself.
Yeah,
It's like the fact that that there are some peers
yeah,
that you know, I can try and help them, but like there are certain circumstances or life situations that I cannot help them with and that honestly they have little power to change, right? So,
okay.
you know, like for instance, they live with someone who is continuing to use drugs and they don't have money to move out or like they can't, you
Mhm.
know, or something like that. Or, you know, their job is not a healthy environment for them, but you know, they're having a hard time finding another job. Just stuff like that, you know what I mean? Where it's and that is frustrating because or even like legal situations, you know, bigger systems at play where like um I can't get someone out of like a charge, for instance, or something like that. Or I can't,
Right, yeah.
you know, I can't get someone medical care. Like I can try and call around, but like I can't
There's
do
things out
what
of
I
your
would like to.
control that you see
It is.
happening. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, that's tough. That is tough, but I think, with your, there's a lot of things that you learn, and as you grow, and I've heard this from some people in this field because
Mhm.
it keeps you grounded a little bit, reminds you every day, and I've heard from people say, "It keeps me accountable. It keeps me front and center and having to set that example. It keeps me aware when I'm working with people that I need to pay full attention to this." So
Yes.
being does it help you in your recovery?
Mhm.
You're helping people every day, but
Mhm.
it also helps you because you are. Do you feel that sort of accountability to the people you work with and speak in your
Yeah.
group?
I do. And I feel, you know, at times I've actually felt pressure because I was like, not, but it was because of me. Like I wasn't taking good enough care of myself. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Especially over, you know, because my sister passed away last year in October.
oh,
So I
yeah,
was like,
y
I was like, I don't know how to deal with this. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. and I'm okay, but I'm really realizing like I need to like self-care is not just like this, oh, like cutesy fun, like do a face mask. Like, no, 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 no. Like you like for me, it's like going to a meeting or like going on a walk or calling a friend or like turning my phone on do not disturb, listening to music, like meditating, which is hard, but I try sometimes. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
really, really because like it's a necessity, right?
Yeah.
Um
So as
and
you
my
say, are you
yeah,
saying recovery is a little harder than laying down with mud on your face and cucumbers on your eyes? A little,
of
what,
course.
a little tougher than that?
Just a little bit. Just a little
Uh,
bit.
well, that's great, and I think what you're
Yeah.
doing is fantastic, and I'll say it again. The website is mypeer.org, and it's
Yes.
mypir.org.
Mhm.
Is it a nonprofit?
It is a nonprofit. Yeah, so we're a statewide nonprofit and we like I said we help people 18 to 27 and we are in basically all the regions in Massachusetts.
That's great. So if there's a person 18 to 27, young adult, college age, like yourself,
Yep.
and you just need to reach out and find out what the program's about, or just learn
Mhm.
more, or even just inquire. Look at I'm having an issue. I need to figure stuff out. It's a good
Mhm.
starting point, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. You know, you can find our calendar, which I was sorry to repeat, but it's good because it has all of it at once. You can see the dates, the times, Zoom links.
Yeah.
You know, it's very accessible.
What do people need to do? I mean, other than go on the website or call the number, but which is, I'll
Mhm.
say it since it came up, 617 six
Yeah.
five seven 1031.
Mhm.
Uh, what do they do then? Do they sign up if they want to participate in a group? Is it,
Mhm.
how do they get involved?
Yeah, so they can become a member. There's a button on the website.
Okay.
They don't have to go to a group or anything. You know, the groups you can come, you can go. It's not
Okay.
something where like you have to RSVP or anything. You just show up.
Hmm.
And then, you know, you can call and, you know, or follow us on social media too, which is on the website where you can find like, you know, what we're doing for the monthly outing, any events we're going to, here's a sign up link, you know, stuff like that. Right. And, you know, there's even there becomes like advocacy opportunities, um, opportunities to step up as a volunteer
Yep.
um and even you know another the biggest thing we're about is empowerment, right? So if someone wants to start a group, you know, they're more than welcome to be like, hey, like, can you help me start this group? Like, I'm a young person in recovery, and we can be like, yeah, like, how do you want to do it? What do you want to do? Like, how can we help you? How can we support you?
See, that's great. Yeah.
Mhm.
And if somebody wants to know, it's no commitment. It's just
Right.
learn. It's a place to learn more and
Mhm.
find out how you might get involved and open up to possibilities to say, okay, how might this work for me? And it's always worth researching and finding out
Oh
from
yeah.
your peers, people like you who have gone through the same thing.
Hmm.
Well, congratulations first on 2 years
Thank you.
and 1 year of your employment at my
Thank
peer.
you. Yes.
That's great. You're doing great stuff, and
Thank
and
you.
and thanks for your message and coming on and sharing your story too. So everyone, it's Jolie Fader, Jolie
Mhm.
Fader at mypeer.org, and please reach out to the website and
Oh, wait, do
get
you want
involved.
my Gmail? My email, I mean?
Well, why not? Sure. If
Oh, okay.
anybody wants to reach
Oh,
Jolie, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, you said Jolie Fader at mypeer.org, and I thought you were trying to give the email
It's
address. I'm so
well, that
sorry.
sounds like it because you are Jolie Fader at my,
Yeah,
but that sounds like an email address. But
I know. You
well, we
can
have the website. They can find you through the website
yes.
too, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah, get tuned in. Well, thanks for joining us, Jolie. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
And we'll be talking soon. And thanks everybody else for listening. Healingvoicesproject.org. And remember, my peer, MYPIR.org.
Yay.
Thanks, everybody. See you soon.